Ed, one of the main things I wanted to have you in today to talk about, and this came up, I guess, a few weeks ago, was about gray divorces.
Yes.
When someone says the term gray divorces, this was part of our discussion back from Atlantic City yesterday. Oh, gray divorce. What is that about? Someone thought I said grave. No, gray, as in the color gray. Gray divorce. And I was having a tough time telling people why they do it. You know, why are we talking about senior citizens, empty nesters?
What we're really talking about are what have historically and socially been known as baby boomers.
Okay.
Which are now people who are above the age of 50 and older. And there are, in my opinion, three primary reasons. First of all is the cultural change. And I saw on Facebook, they have these e-cards, and some of them are funny and some of them are serious.
Yeah.
I saw a guy post this last night. It's a drawing of an old couple walking on the beach, and the wife says to the husband, "How did we manage to stay together for 65 years?" And the husband replies, "We were born in a time when if something was broken, we would fix it, not throw it away."
Wow.
It's a cultural difference. Then I believe it was in the 1970s, the me generation. People became much more interested in their own self-gratification as opposed to the institution of marriage. If you look at the statistics, it was really in the 1970s that divorces started to grow, where now the divorce rate is tremendous. Another way to look at it, Bert, and again, we're really talking about people above the age of 50 and older. In 1990, only 1 of 10 people were above the age of 50 filing for divorce. In 2009, it was 1 out of 4.
That's a big jump. Yeah.
20 years, that's a tremendous jump.
Yeah. But what are the main reasons, though, Ed? Are there financial reasons for this? You know, if 60 is the new 25, is it a midlife crisis that people are suddenly experiencing? It's got to be a lot of reasons for a big jump like this.
Many reasons. First is the cultural transformation of our society and the way that marriage is looked at. Number 2 is people are obviously living much longer than, say, 20, 40, 60 years ago. And many people, they'll stick through it for the children. I hear this on a daily basis.
Oh, I'm sure you do, yeah.
And the lawyers at my firm. And once the last kid's off to college or off to military, they're off and on their own, then these two people look at each other. And that was really the only common bond they had.
Children.
And now, okay, so say you had your kids young, you're 55 years old, and according to the life expectancy charts, you're going to live to 85 to maybe 90 years old. That's a lot of living to do.
Yeah.
That's another 20, 30 years. And now those kids are gone, they look at each other and say, I'm going to live with so-and-so for the next 20 or 30 years, or maybe I'll be happy.
Yeah.
So number 1, with respect to kids. Number 2, with kids, a divorce is tremendously more complicated with children, where it actually becomes much less complicated.
Once you have adult kids, right?
Right. Once you have adult kids, because this is a phrase I use all the time with folks, because there's so many emotions and so forth goes into this. But at the end of the day, Bert, it's about kids and money. We've just eliminated half of the issues of your case.
Yeah.
It's going to be support issues, and sometimes there's not even support issues, because somebody might be already retired for years and they're in a pension. So the wife's going to get half the pension. Split what you've got, 50-50 on a 40-year marriage. It's actually putting the emotions aside.
Yeah.
But from a legal standpoint and legal fee standpoint, pretty straightforward.
How about your practice in general, which you do? You're an East Brunswick family law attorney.
That's correct.
Talk about your practice in general. What have you seen?
So heading it towards 2 decades of practicing, and primarily and now only really in this practice area, I have definitely seen an increase in, let's say, the last 10 years or so in more and more people, gray divorce, baby boomers, older people who, again, for various reasons, but the most common trait I'll see, again, is empty nest.
Is that what it is?
The
Yeah.
children are out of the house.
So it's people staying together, let's just see this through to completion, and then we'll worry about ourselves again. Right.
And then and hopefully, to their credit, they're putting their children first, and as long as it's not a violent situation or people screaming at each other all the time, as long as they put their children's interests first, I get it. And as long as the children are insulated from the problems, sometimes people just grow apart. Sometimes there's infidelity, all these different reasons people get divorced. People in their mind say they do not want to disturb the children, and it doesn't matter if the child is 6, it doesn't matter if the child's 16 years old. They'll hang in there for the quote-unquote benefit of the children. But again, once the child's out of the house, empty nest syndrome, and never mind, the relationship now has taken a new phase.
That's right.
Just like any marriage. You have your pre-children phase, and frankly, your life didn't change that much. You still go out Friday night, have a couple margaritas, and not really worry.
Just 2 kids in love.
Right. And I'm sure every listener out there knows that once that cute little baby comes into the picture, all of a sudden, you're not just going to Jose Tejas and, hey, let's just go wild here. You know, the rumor has it kids change your life a lot. And then you have that stage from when they're little through the teenage years and off and on to typically, at least in this state, to college. In New Jersey, most high school graduates attend college in the state of New Jersey, any other state of the union.
Wow.
But now you have this new phase of your relationship, your post-children phase. And some people adjust very well to it. I enjoy, in my personal life, the stories I see, the successes.
Yeah.
In my professional life, I don't get the successes. I get the ones who look at each other, and sometimes it's civil and peaceful, and they say, all right, we did what we had to do. We're not happy. We're not in love anymore. We're living like roommates. Mm-hmm. Let's go to mediation, try to work this out amicably. Some people, I've had people file literally, if that kid went off to University of Pittsburgh on Friday, mom, who, by the way, especially with baby boomers, 2/3 of the time, women are the first to strike.
So women, 2/3 of the time, the women
initiate
the gray divorce. Okay.
The gray divorce, that's correct. I mean, literally happened to me in the last year. The kid went off to college on a weekend. That mom was in my office, 10 a.m., I am DONE with this guy.
Wow. So when Junior closes that front door and honks the horn and
bye-bye, big smiles.
They look at each other and it's like, okay,
yeah,
that's it. What about another obstacle, Ed? How about, you got Junior off to college. That's great. You stayed together. You hung in there for that. What about, hey, you know what? Let's get this mortgage paid off. We've been working our whole lives to pay for this house. We're so close. I don't want to have to deal with it. You don't want to have to deal with it. Let's hang in there. Let's get the mortgage paid off, and we'll go from there. Is that worth hanging in there a little bit longer to see that next milestone in your life accomplished?
Ideally, yes. And don't get me wrong, while I obviously appreciate that we're talking about an emotional relationship, but I've read books that say that not enough people take into consideration that marriage is also a career decision. It's a financial decision.
Oh, absolutely.
So depending on where some people can very easily and just as comfortably, or might even be in a better financial position to divorce as a gray divorcee, as opposed to somebody in their early 40s with kids who are 10 or tweens or early teenagers, unless one or both spouses are generating a significant income. They don't have that kind of money, and unfortunately, and it's an epidemic in our society, a lot of people starting in the late 70s started living on debt. I make young people laugh. I say, you ever hear of a mortgage burning party? They have no idea what I'm talking about.
No. Huh?
Perhaps some of our listeners have no idea what I'm talking about, but once upon a time, you threw a party after you made that last mortgage payment. And literally, you would burn the mortgage, and then cake and drinks and music.
Yeah,
I'm a big Archie Bunker fan. I remember there was an All in the Family there, mortgage burning party. When's the last time you heard of somebody having a mortgage burning party?
It's been a long time. Right.
Now the mortgage is burning you.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
That's true. That's true. How many times do you, when you apply for a mortgage or you do a refinance, first thing that goes in your head, how old will I be when this is paid off? First thing you start doing the math, right?
Right, and certainly one of the numerous problems with the real estate market is when the real estate prices were inflated, people were sucking as much equity out of the house as possible. I see this every day, Bert.
Yeah.
And now a house that was worth $800, you owed $200, so you took another $200 out of it. Now the house is worth $500. You still owe that $400.
Yeah.
You hemorrhaged money.
Yeah.
And another thing, I'm dating myself, but 10 years ago, you think a bank would eat the money? I saw plenty of people have to bring money to closing to sell.
Wow.
That's painful. You have to write a check to sell your house. That's painful. Now, a common term is, quote unquote, short sale.
Yes.
The bank eats the money. Now, we could go forever why this is, but a long story short is it's actually less expensive for the bank just to eat that money than to foreclose you. Now they have a property that's sitting. They're going to have to give it away for a song if they're lucky. Some people trash the house on their way out.
Yeah.
I had a client who came up with his own business, and he would just go to banks and say, I'll drive around and go to all your foreclosed homes to make sure they haven't been vandalized. Because some people will trash a place on their way out.
That's his job. He goes around
and this was a guy who was working at Lowe's, making $50,000 a year. His income was $400,000 doing this job.
Wow.
He just came up with the idea.
He went to the banks and said, I'll go to your foreclosed properties and just keep an eye on them.
He was hitting 40 houses a day.
Wow. I've even heard of some regions of the country, Ed, where the bank is going to pay some money to have the house torn down, maybe to keep the value of the neighborhood or the block realistic.
Exactly. Off the top of my head, it's called the city of Detroit.
Yeah.
It's the shrinking city.
Can you think of a situation, and I don't know why this came to mind yesterday, too, I'm on my way back from Atlantic City, where a couple, kids are in school, house is paid off, they're living their lives, maybe they're headed towards retirement, if not retired already, for tax reasons. Hey, you know what? Let's legally end our marriage, but we'll still be here. Everything will be the same. Nothing will change. We just won't be married anymore. Nothing will change. And the reason why we'll do it is because of an insurance thing, a tax thing. Is there any upside to it?
So, in other words, you're saying getting divorced, but remaining together?
Yeah, living in the house. Any benefits?
Not really. No? Usually, if that occurs, it's out of pure economic necessity.
Yeah.
You end up, and I've had case. I was just talking about this with a friend the other day. I had a case not too long ago where they kept the house because who wants to sell in this market? Mm-hmm. It was a relatively peaceful divorce, no kids. And these people, as we sit here, the ex-husband and his new girlfriend live upstairs.
Wow.
The ex-wife, her new boyfriend, live downstairs. And they literally, the four of them, have dinner together every night. You can't make it up, Bert.
Not too uncomfortable, is it?
No, they're having a great old time.
Pass the bread, you son of a...
Right. They're doing better than a bunch of married people.
Right.
They're having their red, nice steak. Everybody's laughing. Music's playing. Right. And then these people that, like this running joke on Facebook, if your life was only as good as you make it look on Facebook, we're this happy family. And then at night you go home, I can't stand. I got to call this Weinstein guy. I got to get out of this thing.
Ed Weinstein, thanks again for coming in.
Bert, pleasure as always.
As always, man. We'll have you back, definitely.